So it's Saturday preview time here on Timeform's Facebook page. We're going to look ahead to the major races taking place tomorrow, where all the focus is on Cheltenham for their November meeting. And who better to preview all the action than our chief correspondent?
Next week, he's coming next week.
Next week. I believe you've got Cheltenham fever, have you?
No, I haven't.
No.
I had a mild case of Cheltenham fever at the first meeting, but then I soon took some antibiotics. Back on the flat. Concentrated that towards the end in the Breeders' Cup and so on. And I mean, it's a long lost love. But now we're back at Cheltenham, and we've got some real Cheltenham horses to go to war with, haven't we? There's some real high profile names, trainers, jockeys, and the horses themselves. So lots to look forward to. We're just going to sort of gallop through as best we can and pick out what I think are some good bets, what I think are the stories and the high profile horses. So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for Sunday as well. We're going to have a quick gallop through on Sunday as well, which encompasses Ireland and the return of Faugheen. So that's on a separate one, but let's dig into Cheltenham Saturday.
So straight into it, and we're going to look in detail at two of the races on Saturday's card. The first one being the 150, the third race of the day, a Grade 3 handicap chase. Just the 9 go to post, but it's an illustrious 9 headed by Manella Rocco.
Well, this is it, isn't it? We've got the Gold Cup runner-up from last year turning up in a handicap. It's not his first start of the season. It's his second start because he went to Ireland and he was slightly underwhelming in a Grade 3 over there when he was favourite and probably expected to win. I think John Joe himself said that, scratching his head a little bit. And that might be the reason why he's in a handicap chase here today. Obviously, he's got to give a lot of weight to a lot of horses and some in-form and interesting horses themselves. But there is a bottom line to this race, isn't there, Nick? In that if Manella Rocco fancies it, he just outclasses them. He can outjump and outrun these if he wants. And you've sort of got to come back to the point of why is he here in a handicap chase when he's obviously going to have bigger fish to fry later in the season. And I think this partly because they need to get him back on track after Ireland, and also partly because this horse hasn't won since the Cheltenham Festival 2 years back at the National Hunt Chase, and he's just a bit out of the winning habit. So maybe the act of winning will help him on his road to great things again this year. And yeah, it's quite interesting the betting for this race because he's about 9-2. Have you got the
about 5s here? I've got, yeah. It's very, very open.
But yeah, back to that sort of black and white issue with if Manella Rocco turns up, and the Manella Rocco we know that he's just too good for them, even though he's giving away weight. So there is that natural question of, well, is he just using this as a platform, as a stepping stone? Of course, that's always a consideration, especially with these owners and trainers, in that they have got long-term plans always in place with the horses. But it is very tempting for me. It is very, very tempting for me just to get involved with Manella Rocco, thinking that if you had a look at the betting and he was 5-2, then you wouldn't be surprised, would you? Because he's a Gold Cup runner-up who is effectively playing in a league below. So we'll talk about a couple of the others, but you always come back to this race with Manella Rocco, and the race really revolves around him. And if he's on a going day and he fancies it, he's just simply too good for these, even though he's giving them all weight.
So this is the metaphorical FA Cup second round tie. This is in a League One club at a conference side.
And that's an interesting point to make. You've hit on a really pertinent point of the race, because let's have a look at some of the other runners in here. We've got Three Faces West, who's current favourite but is coming back from a long absence, and you're sort of wondering why, when he was thriving last December, he's had to break off, and this is his first start since then. So things haven't clearly gone to plan with him, but he's on the comeback trail. Well, obviously Philip Hobbs is second to none when it comes to getting them ready first time, but still there is a natural element of finding and feeling his way back. Premier Bond, you would think, is going to have spring targets like he did last year. He's slightly out of the handicap, as is 3 of the other horses in here, because we've got a classic like Manella Rocco turning up. Shotgun Paddy will have nationals on his agenda, or versions of, like the Ida Chase, the Welsh National. Ben's likewise. Vicente, that'll be turning up again, or being primed for the spring. That's his first start back. So with a lot of the horses in here, it's either the feeling of a stepping stone or a comeback trail. And we're looking at a perfect candidate as well here, number 3 on the card, because this is his cup final, really. He's a horse who, he's not going to win another Grade 3 handicap this season apart from this one, because it's tailor-made for him. He's got the 3 mile 3 trip, he's got Cheltenham where he acts really well around, and he's had that prep run behind him. Paddy Brennan's back aboard today. Fergal O'Brien will have spotted that this is a big day for him, and perhaps his biggest day. So perfect candidate is interesting at ish prices.
12s?
Yeah, 12s, just because you can see what I mean, hopefully, that there's a lot of the other horses in here. There is another agenda at play. With him, perfect candidate. This is the Super Bowl for him.
Okay, so we'll jump into the feature race.
Let me round up that first. Just because I feel like you know what I'm like. I just waffle on.
So class to tell in the first race.
I'm gonna back Manila Rocco. I'm gonna have a bit on perfect candidate as well. But it's I just look at Manila Rocco and I look at that price and I just think, oh, it's too tempting for me to stay out.
Manila Rocco then into the feature.
Yeah.
The BetVictor Gold Cup, wide open as always, and the standout sort of names here. I've noticed Callum Lock is Timeform top rated and the favourite, and then you've got horses like Le President, who strikes me as a bit of a bottom topper.
What's that one of those?
Well, when I was in school, I was in the top set, but I was at the bottom of it, and I used to get called a bottom topper.
Oh,
so
right.
like not really good enough to be in the top order, second tier sort of. Yeah,
I like that phrase. I'm going to hijack that phrase.
By all means, yeah.
But yeah, with Calmore Lock, Timeform top rated, as you said, there is a touch of the Manila Rocco about this, in that this is a former Grade 1 winner over in Ireland 2 years ago. Things didn't just work out for him last year, but he's changed stables. He's gone from the Kerry Lee, who's excellent, but Harry Fry is, he's in the probably top 5 trainers in Britain right now, and he sort of set this plan out, I think, from a long time out to come to this race. 2 slight niggles with him. One is, you look through his record and he loves the mud. It's not that he doesn't act on good ground, but it's drying there. The times from Friday suggest that it was, heading towards good as much as good to soft. And Carl Morlock, if this was soft or heavy ground, then you would get stuck into him. That's what my impression is. The other niggle with him is that he's got a tongue strap on for the first time. Just a little alarm bell going off as what's the need for, or what's felt to be the need to apply a tongue strap with him. Is there a slight breathing issue there? But the positives outweigh the negatives with him. And we're sort of in the Manila Rocco realm of, if Carl Morlock rolls back to his best, then even off top weight, he should be too classy for these.
Bit of a theme. Yeah. Would that be the way to go then in this, or would you play each way instead?
He is favourite.
Yeah.
And there are those little alarm bells going off with him regarding the ground and the tongue strap. And it's his first start of the season. Of course, no matter how hard trained he is at home, there is something to be said for a bit of match practice and coming in hot rather than coming in cold. And Le President apart, there aren't that many up-and-comers in this race. And Tully East is really interesting in here because many people will have remembered how he cruised through the Close Brothers handicap at the last Cheltenham Festival. He won by a length and a quarter, but effectively he led on the bridle at the last. And he's had that prep run. This is a really good target horse for a really good target trainer, and this has clearly been a target because he reappeared over hurdles. It was just, the Americans call it a maintenance race or a screw tightener, just this idea of getting everything right for the big day. And this certainly is his big day. And the drying ground's no problem to him. It was good ground at the festival last year. And he might have a few geese that Cal Morlock doesn't, if it does turn tactical or it does come to picking your way through the field. So, in summary, Cal Morlock's a really sort of significant horse. And again, like Manila Rocco, it's the horse around which the race revolves. However, under today's or Saturday's circumstances, with his profile and with what I think is another £7 to £10 in the tank, I think I'm going to go for Tully East.
Okay, 8-1 at the moment. Is that straight on the nose, or would you play each way at 8?
It's quite tempting to play each way because he does jump well. Dennis O'Regan will husband him into the race like he did last year, and you can just imagine him picking them off one by one. I'd be staggered if he wasn't in the first 3, Tully East, because we won't go through them in detail. But a lot of the other horses have earned their marks and earned their position in here through working their way up. He is still mid-process. He is still mid-flourish, if you like, I think, Tully East. So, yeah, I think that under these conditions, with that prep run behind him and with the impression that he left at the festival last year, Tully East is the answer.
So, Tully East in the BetVictor Gold Cup. And we're going to quickly now run through a couple more races on the card. Starting with, I think, is it the 3-runner Novices Chase you wanted to have a quick look at?
Yeah, because obviously we've got some really important horses in terms of developing for the rest of the season, and we'll be talking forever about Cheltenham and the Cheltenham Festival in the next few months. And this 115 at Cheltenham, it's a 3-mile Novice Chase, includes horses, 2 of them in particular, who we will be talking about in conjunction with the RSA chase back at the festival. Ballyoptic and West Approach. 3-runner field, so it's going to be tactical. The other one in there is Black Corton, who's, he's made hay literally while the sun has shone in the summer. And I'd be surprised if Black Corton was good enough to deal with the other two, Ballyoptic and West Approach. And just, again, sort of thinking tactically, thinking about gears, West Approach has always looked a real steer. And that's when he really came alive last year. And Ballyoptic, it's very rare you see a horse jump as well as he did at Exeter on his chasing debut, won by 13 lengths, but was really proficient and efficient at every stage. And West Approach took a while to warm up at Chepstow, well on top at the end, but just, I think that this race might be won in the middle third, or the third quarter to be precise. And Ballyoptic, that's when he won at Exeter and really took charge of the race. And West Approach was still having to push through either his greenness or his inexperience with fences at that point. So I'm just leaning towards Ballyoptic in what I think is a match, but it could be a really significant race, as it was last year, won by Thistlecrack.
Just a quick one, if you try and pick apart the form, which course out of Exeter and Chepstow would prepare them more for Cheltenham?
Good point. I'd say more Chepstow, really, because the fences are quite stiff there. It's left-handed, and it is a test. Exeter is, even though that was heavy ground at Exeter, it's a little bit more favouring the sort of nimble horse. Ballyoptic, yeah, I think that's a good point to make. West Approach would arguably tick the qualification box in terms of chasing debut experience, regards Cheltenham itself. But in terms of the process and the playbook, I think Ballyoptic really fits the bill well here.
Okay, Ballyoptic then, and was it a runner in the 3 o'clock race as well? Yeah. Handicap hurdle, which we're not really allowed to say, but features a horse to follow from our book.
I think we can that cat has scurried away when everyone was on his reappearance. But Thomas Campbell, the reason he was in the horse to follow book is because he hadn't had a chance of 3 miles. He got that chance at the last Cheltenham meeting, at the first Cheltenham meeting of the season, and he was well on top of the finish there. He was really strong at the finish. He gets another furlong and a bit to go today. He's up £10 for that, Nick. But Henderson's been really clever here and booked James Bourne to take off to offset £7. And just the crucial thing about that is that James Bourne rode out his £7 claim through the week, so he can only claim 5 now. But because he was engaged on this horse already, he's allowed to claim the full 7. So he's up 10. James Bourne is really good. In theory, he's only up £3 from that, and he's the one with all the potential and all the momentum in this race. He's 9-4 right now. He'll be 6-4 tomorrow. Okay, is there anything else you want to touch on, or should we jump into something? No, I think we've sort of galloped through that there. I'm happy with that. Okay, I'll run the other end, and we'll be back on in about 2 minutes.